I had a feeling this Christmas dinner would be a fiasco from the moment I walked in. It's not like I didn't know what I was getting into. It's always the same. This year, I was determined to persevere in the face of challenges. Let me introduce myself. I admire the youngest of 4 siblings. However, being the youngest has never meant anything nice or cute in my family. If anything, it has always been the reason people speak down to me. I'm used to it. By this time, I'm 28, but to them, I'm still a baby. I don't have a partner or children like my older siblings, but I'm successful in other ways. I have a career I'm proud of, a small but devoted network of friends, and a sense of freedom others don't understand. Marriage and children have always been more important to them than anything else. Christmas dinner has always been a major event in our household. It's one of the rare times of year that we all get together at my parents' house, a large old Victorian home that has been in the family for generations. Before we continue with today's story, if you're enjoying what you've heard so far, please hit that subscribe button. Every new subscriber helps me keep sharing these inspiring tales that touch your day. Thank you for your support. A house that appears great in family photos but is a pain to clean. I've always despised the location. It's cold and distant, much like my parents, but it is a custom, so I go every year. Even though I would rather be somewhere else, I go because of family. I arrived just after everyone else. My oldest brother, Chris, had already arrived with his wife and 3 children, loudly setting up the table as if they owned the room. Then there was Amy, my sister, with her husband and their baby, always flawless, polished, and flooding their ideal lifestyle. My parents were in the kitchen, scurrying around, pretending to have everything under control, but still making everyone feel like they were 5 years old. As usual, I entered discreetly, hoping to escape the drama that was bound to ensue when my mother spotted me. Her face brightened up with that phony smile she always gave me, the one that made me feel like I wasn't really welcome, simply tolerated for the sake of the holidays. "Maya, sweetie," she said, giving me an embrace that seemed more compulsory than genuine. "I'm delighted you could make it. Grab a seat." I hardly had time to react when my father called from the other room. His voice boomed with power as if to remind everyone that he was still the man of the house. "Dinner's almost ready, Chris. Amy, please get the kids situated." I stood there for a time, not sure what to do. I wished to say something, but it was Christmas. I did not want to cause a scene. Not yet. That's when my mother, in her subtle manner of making everything feel like a lesson, spoke again. "Maya, why don't you sit at the children's table? We've got a unique place for you among the cousins." I froze. I could not believe it. My mother, in her sweet, syrupy tone, had just asked me to sit at the kids' table, which they set up every year with a mismatched assortment of chairs, paper plates, and half-hearted decorations. I looked across to the dining room. The adult table was nicely decorated with exquisite china wine glasses and candles that gave the atmosphere an elegant, grown-up feel. My dad sat at the head of the table, looking as smug as usual. Surrounded by my married siblings, there is no room for me. However, I returned my gaze to my mother, attempting to suppress the rage that was welling up within me. I could feel the familiar sting, the one I get whenever they try to remind me that I'm not good enough in their eyes. This wasn't the first time they'd made me feel small, but it was unique. This wasn't a casual remark or side-eye. This was deliberate. They knew exactly what they were doing. I attempted a smile, but it did not reach my eyes. "Okay, Mom. Thank you," I responded, trying to keep my voice steady. She smiled as well, but her attitude indicated that she was unconcerned with how I felt. This was all about maintaining appearances and ensuring everything was flawless. I don't believe she recognized how much it hurt to be rejected like this without saying anything. I walked up to the children's table, my stomach churning with each step. It wasn't like I anticipated anything different, but for a little moment, I hope they treat me like an adult. I sat in the small plastic chair, surrounded by children who were more concerned with their mashed potatoes than the awkward hush I sensed in the air. My cousins were in their own little universe and utterly ignored me. I looked at the plate in front of me. It was messy and unappetizing. It was as if they hadn't even tried to make it appear good. I swear I saw one of the toddlers slip a portion of broccoli beneath the table. I wanted to shout. That's when it struck me. This wasn't only about the table. This was not about tradition or the Christmas spirit. This was about them thinking I was less than them. They didn't even bother to hide it anymore. And at that moment, something inside me snapped. I stood calmly. The weight of my decision weighed against me. I did not need to say anything. I didn't need to yell or cause a scene. I just grabbed my coat, slung it over my shoulder, and strode right to the door. As I opened it, my mother's voice rang out almost late. "Where are you going, Maya?" she inquired. Her tone was tinged with bewilderment and annoyance. I did not glance back. I'm leaving, I announced, my voice frigid. Enjoy your dinner. The dew banging behind me. The cold air hit me like a wave. But I didn't mind. My car was parked just down the street and I had already left. My parents panicked. Calls faded into the distance as I drove for hours. I wandered aimlessly until I arrived at a quiet diner. Sitting alone in a booth. I ordered something warm, my hands still trembling from adrenaline. I couldn't remember the last time I felt so angry and relieved all at once. That's when my phone started exploding messages. I missed calls, as usual. I glanced at the screen. It was my family. Chris, Amy, everyone, including my father, was phoning and messaging. But the one that stood out the most came from my mother. Mom, where are you? We need to talk. This is not humorous, Maya. I felt a smirk tug on my lips, the type that had been building all evening. I was not about to pick up. Not yet. The ball was now in my court. They had no idea what was coming. I put down my phone and sipped my coffee, watching the steam curl up into the air. What should I do next? That was the question. And believe me, they wouldn't like the answer. I waited in that diner for what seemed like an eternity, with my phone beeping every few minutes. The texts became more urgent, with each one attempting to get me back into their little game. Chris sent the first one. Chris, Maya, this is not funny. Where are you now? Then another from Amy. Amy, Mom is freaking out. We simply want you back. Next came my father. Dad, come on. Stop acting like a child. Get back here. I did not respond. I did not owe them an explanation. They had made their decision when they treated me as a second-class person at their special supper. All I wanted was to be treated like an adult. But they decided I was still a baby and needed to be hidden away with the toddlers. After about an hour, I picked up my phone to check my messages again. The tension was building as if they were realizing I wasn't going to give up easily. My gut twisted when I saw my mother's text. Mom, Maya, I do not understand why you're doing this. Your siblings are concerned and it's destroying Christmas. Do not make this about you. You're being selfish. I stared at the message for a time, feeling a surge of rage rising again. Selfish. They were the ones acting selfishly. The entire night had been about their image and aspirations. I had only been a component in their flawless little puzzle. However, to her, I was the problem. Typical. I wasn't sure if I was supposed to laugh or cry at this point. Instead, I just blocked her number. She was not going to make me feel guilty. Not this time. I took a deep breath and tried to focus on myself. This was not a spontaneous reaction. I had a plan. Every one of them had wronged me, and tonight I was going to make sure they understood how badly they had messed up. Later that evening, after finishing my lunch and the adrenaline had subsided a little, I decided it was time. I opened the family group chat where they generally vent about everything and anything. There had already been 12 emails concerning me. This is ridiculous. She's acting like a child. What's the big deal? We didn't mean it like that. I think she's just overreacting. I scrolled over them, my fingers itching. I knew I could simply ignore it. That would have been the easiest way out. But no, I needed them to feel it. I needed them to understand that how they treated me had consequences. I began typing slowly at first, but my words soon increased in speed. You guys don't get it, do you? You really don't. This isn't just about a seat at the table. It's about how you've treated me my entire life. Like I'm not good enough. Like I'm invisible. Unless you need something from me. I'm the only one who doesn't get praised for following the same script you all did. Get married. Have kids. Play the game. But I built my own life, and I'm doing just fine. So maybe it's time you all recognize that I waited before sending, allowing the weight of my words to sink in for the first time in my life. I felt in control of the situation. I stopped begging for their approval. I was not going to be their small project. I pressed send. It did not take long for the text to pour in. My phone buzzed repeatedly, each message more frantic than the last. The first one came from my father. Dad, this is crazy. Maya, you're being dramatic. Get over yourself. Amy swiftly followed. Amy, you can't just leave like that without causing everyone to be sad. What did you think would happen? Then Chris joined in. Chris, we did not do anything wrong. Maya, you need to calm yourself and return before you ruin everything with your fury. Each message landed harder than the last. They still didn't understand it. They were still trying to blame me, claiming that it was my fault, that they treated me so badly. I did not respond. Instead, I did something I had been thinking about for a long time. I launched the Photos app on my phone and began scrolling. There it was, An old photo of our family from years ago, just before everything started to fall apart. A great Christmas photograph with everyone smiling and cheerful. Everyone but me. Of course, yeah, I was there, thrust into the image as an afterthought, but I knew the reality beneath their smiles. I understood what had been said, what was implied. All these years, I took that shot and promptly placed it on the family group chat. But this time I included a caption. Here's to the perfect family. Always making sure the youngest one knows their place. Then I shut off the phone. I let the silence settle about me, feeling liberated from their restraints. I had no idea what would happen next, and I didn't care. They pushed me too far, and now I was finished. I didn't check my phone for several hours. It was almost weird sitting there without the incessant buzzing and pinging of their urgent texts. The silence seemed strangely calming. For once, I wasn't the one attempting to please them. I stayed awake late, just thinking I knew exactly what they'd be saying behind my back, even if they didn't have the courage to say it to my face. My siblings, particularly Chris, undoubtedly believed I was exaggerating, certain I was just being the drama queen of the family again. But I was not. I was finished performing the character they had written for me. What if they couldn't understand that? Well, I'd let them deal with the consequences as I eventually plugged in my phone to charge inside and I checked it again. The notifications were as relentless as I had expected. Dozens of missed calls, and text ranging from angry to apologetic. But they were all tinged with frustration. I scanned through them, reading their words with grim delight. They were unraveling, and I wasn't about to make it simple for them to put things back together. Mom sent the longest text. I don't know what's gotten into you, Maya. You're acting like this is about us, when it's really about you. You can't just run away from your family like this. You're tearing us apart. Please come back. Christmas is ruined without you. This isn't who you are. There it was. Guilt trip. The attempt to make me the bad guy. They always made me feel like I was the one making trouble by demanding to be treated like an adult. Then came my father's message. This is childish. We need to talk about this when you calm down. And of course, Chris, if you think walking out of dinner was going to make a statement, you're wrong. You're making it worse. You owe us an apology. An apology? For what? Finally sticking up for myself. For demanding to be treated equally in a family that only respected me when it suited them. No, I was not sorry for anything. But then Amy left a message. It differed from the others. It was neither angry nor demanding. It was almost imploring. Maya, I know you're upset, and I understand why. But this isn't the way to fix things. You're my sister, and I love you. But you're pushing everyone away. Please, just come home. We can talk about this. It's Christmas, for God's sake. I looked at her words for a while. I'd always been close to Amy when I was a kid. She was the one who defended me when the others banded together against me. What about now? No? I was unsure whether I could ever trust her again. Not after everything. She'd let go. Everything she had silently supported when she knew it was wrong. I took a deep breath while my thumb hovered over the screen. I wanted to respond. I wanted to reassure her that I wasn't being theatrical or making problems. That I was advocating for myself. I was tired of being treated as if I were the family's perpetual child. But I did not. Not yet. Instead, I typed a quick response. I'll think about it. I sent it and put down my phone, feeling a stab of remorse. But I shook it off. I knew I couldn't return to that table unless their perceptions of me shifted dramatically, and I wasn't going to let them brush it under the rug like it was nothing. The next morning, I received even more texts. Some were from family friends who wanted to know where I was. They were really worried, but I didn't want to explain myself to anyone who wasn't involved in the situation. And then there was a torrent of calls from my mother. But one message stood out. It came from Amy Meyer. I've been talking to Chris and Mom, and they're pretty upset. And honestly, so am I. We are a family, and you cannot simply distance yourself from us if you don't return home soon. Things will get worse. Please don't make this any more complicated than it needs to be. Increased pressure, increased manipulation. And I still didn't grasp what I was going through. They were not hearing me. They were not listening. I knew exactly what they were doing, what they have always done. They were attempting to guilt me into returning, trying to make me feel like I was the source of all the problems, when in fact, it was their inability to view me as anything other than the youngest kid that had been the problem all along. I grabbed up my phone, launched the group chat, and stared at the screen. My fingers paused over the keyboard as I considered what to say. I wanted to convey my point, to let them understand why I was fed up with their mistreatment of me. However, the fact was, I wasn't sure I was ready to return yet. Not until I knew they had changed. Not until I felt confident. They recognized me for who I truly was. My phone buzzed again. This time it was from my father. Maya, we need to discuss. You can't keep running away. You're going to regret this. It hit me like a ton of bricks. Same terms, same deceptive guilt trip. I could feel the tension rising as if the walls were closing in on me. But I did not answer. Not yet. The day dragged on, and with each hour I felt the weight of their texts, their calls, their attempts to get me back into their orbit despite many phone notifications. I maintained my distance. I'd made my choice, and I was not going to let them bully me back into the character they had set me in. As the evening progressed, I found myself sitting alone, staring at the empty chair across from me. If I had gone back, I would have sat in this chair. A part of me, an old part, wanted to surrender, to go back, to make it nice. It was Christmas after all. It's time for the family to be united. However, I couldn't shake the idea that if I went back now, it would be like saying I was not worth fighting for. That all those years of being put aside were perfectly okay. That they were correct. That I was simply being dramatic. I considered the snapshot I had uploaded in the group conversation, the one where I was forced to grin and pushed to the side like an afterthought. That image had said what I needed to say. I wasn't only upset about tonight, I was outraged since this was how they treated me. Every year, every birthday, every holiday, every family function. I was banished to the back seat and never allowed a voice. They expected me to simply accept it like I had in the past. But not this time. The phone rang again. This time it was my mother. I paused, my finger hovering over the decline button, but something inside me urged me to pick up. Perhaps I was finally open to hearing what she had to say. Perhaps I was just curious how far they would go to make me feel bad. I took a deep breath and pushed the green button. Maya. My mother's voice filtered through, exhausted and frustrated. We need to talk. This has gone on long enough. I remained mute, letting the words hang in the air. She waited for me to reply, but I said nothing. Look, she added, we're family. You're making things more complicated than they need to be. I'm not sure what's gotten into you, but you're driving everyone away. Your father is upset. Chris is upset. Amy. She stopped, evidently struggling to find her words. I'm upset. Maya. I nearly laughed. Were they upset? After everything they had put me through. They had the arrogance to say this. I could feel the old rage rising up, but I swallowed it, not wanting to show her how much she still had control over me. I'm not pushing anyone away, Mom. I responded calmly but firmly. I just stopped playing your game. I am not going to sit at the kids' table, be treated as if I am invisible, and pretend everything is fine. She was silent for a moment. I could practically hear her analyzing what I said, trying to find out how to convert the conversation back into a guilt trip. You cannot just leave us waiting like this. Your father is attempting to make Christmas memorable. The entire family is here. It's not just about you, Maya. She eventually added, her tone almost imploring. You're breaking the family apart. You know, I've spent my whole life attempting to make everything work, trying to fit into the mold that you all made for me. But no one ever saw me. Did they? I responded. You did not want me as an adult, Mom. You wanted me to be a small kid forever. And tonight was the final straw. She was silent again, and for the first time, I could see she was listening to what I was saying. It was more than just a seat at the dinner table. It was about how I had been treated throughout my life. I'm sorry, Maya, she finally admitted, but her voice was faint and hesitant. I didn't know you felt that way. It took me a long time to realize it too. I said, relaxing my tone slightly. But I'm done pretending. There was a long pause, and I could feel the tension in the air, even through the phone. For the first time in my life, I felt understood. I felt in control of the situation, and it felt great. It felt empowering. Finally, she sighed. I understand. I honestly do. But I'm still your mother, and all I want is for us to be a family again. I let her words linger in the air for a time. There was a moment when I would have raced back to them, hoping to make everything right. But I was not that person anymore. I discovered the hard way that they wouldn't change unless I forced them to see me, to consider me an equal. I'll think about it. I replied, echoing my previous remark. But this time things were different. It was not about me giving in. It was about taking my time. It was about them recognizing that I was more than simply an afterthought, and that I was not going to allow them to drag me back into their toxic environment without reform. All right. My mother murmured softly. I hope you return soon. I just want you to be happy. I hung up the phone and sat back, taking deep breaths. It was not over. It was not a neat and tidy resolution. However, for the first time in a long time, I felt in control of the situation. I was not going to let them walk all over me anymore. And perhaps, just maybe, they would finally see me for who I truly was. I set down my phone and glanced out the window, watching the snow fall softly in the darkness. I wasn't sure what the future held, but for the first time in years, I felt truly free. And what about Christmas? It was not ruined because, for the first time in my life, I was going to take care of myself. The rest can wait. As I sat there watching the snow fall softly outside, I couldn't help but wonder if did I the correct thing, or did I simply walk away from something that could have been fixed. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more shocking real-life stories happening around you.